Dude, her eyes are like looking through me. I'm kind of enamored, but also scared. What's going on, guys? My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax. And today we're going to be taking a look at Dark March, or I call her Darch, March 9th. September 11th, Evernight, whatever you want to call her. And I'll be giving you my first impressions on the character. Today I'm going to go over everything in her kits, give you a showcase of how she works, and then talk about her team's build and everything. This is not a guide video. This is much easier for me to make than that, but I will do my best. There also will be a showcase at the end of this video if you want to see some high-level play of darts, but unlike most of my first impressions videos, this one is going to focus more on premium characters and 5-star teams, since that tends to be who Evernight pairs best with, because our best partners are typically remembrance characters, and all of those are 5 stars at the moment. So with that said, let's just get right into it after I show you the build we're running. I am going to be using her signature light cone. This one, I will go over the effect of it in a little bit, but just know it's very strong. And on top of that, I'm going to be using the Bone Collector's 2-piece and the new World Remaking Deliverer set, which is going to increase crit rate by 8% with the 2-piece, and then also increase the wearer and the Memo Sprite's max HP by 24% after they use their basic attacker skill. And it's going to, on top of that, increase all allies' damage dealt by 15%. So literally everyone on the team is benefiting from this, including Darch here. Now, this character is sort of I would describe them as a sub DPS support, but at the same time, they can fit as a main DPS as well if you have the right supports. Her personal damage with enough buffers on the team and with the right setup can actually dish out a ton of damage. And she'll be able to easily clear MOC 12 in a reasonable amount of time because her personal damage is very good. And you will see why in just a moment. But in today's showcase, I'm going to be showcasing the sub DPS position, or the dual DPS position if you prefer that term, because that is what performs best for me. When you go to play Evernight in endgame content and use her as a main DPS, just keep in mind that all of the content around her time of release is going to be catered to her, so that way they can sell her better. That's just always how MOC and APOC and stuff goes. And let's just get right into it. All right, so here we are in the brand new game mode. Now, I'm going to be showcasing the Castorice team with Evernight, just because Evernight right now is kind of niche and specifically works exceptionally well with Castorice. And so we have the full premium team. I thought it would only be fair to go into the new game mode that's meant to be harder than MOC 12. So we're on the first round of that, and I'll have a separate video for like the entire thing to give you guys an overview and see how possible it is as a low spender, but that's a later video. For now, let me just show you what she does. All right, so the first thing you've probably noticed is that we have 12 out of 16 stacks down in this corner on Evernight. That is Memoria stacks, and that is her main mechanic. Now, I'm gonna go over every single thing that she does, but I'm gonna try to do it in the least complicated, least convoluted way possible, okay? So first things first, I'm gonna talk about what kind of character she is, what she does. As I mentioned earlier, she is a hybrid sub-DPS support character. She is going to buff all of the Memo Sprites on your team massively, while also buffing herself and her own Memo Sprite. The way she does this is via using her skill, which gives all of your ally Memo Sprites 24% of her crit damage for 2 turns every time you skill. On top of that, in passive, she will also give more crit damage to your ally Memo Sprites based on the amount of remembrance characters in your team. So in this team, we're running 3 remembrance characters, so we'll be getting 50% crit damage to all ally Memo Sprites. So we'll be getting about 80%-ish crit damage from Evernight herself, and then on top of that, another 50%. So like 130% crit damage bonus to all of the Memo Sprites on the team, which is great. Her skill also doesn't cost any skill points to use, which makes her overwhelmingly skill point positive when you see the rest of her kit. On top of that, when you use her ultimate, all of her jellyfish are going to turn red. You're going to enter a state where all enemies will take 30% increased damage, and Evernight and her Memo Sprite are going to deal 60% increased damage. On top of that, if you go over to the Memo Sprites talent, when the Memo Sprite is summoned, you're also going to gain 50% increased damage. So when the Memo Sprite and her ultimate are both up, you're getting 110% damage bonus on her, on top of the extra crit damage she's getting from her skill, and then also the crit damage she gets from her talent. Every single time she or the jellyfish loses HP, you're gonna gain 60% crit damage for 2 turns. So just really, really massive buffs. On top of that, there's another passive that gives you 35% crit rate, and yeah, it's just this whole thing. Basically, she buffs a lot. Right, and all of her crit damage that she can give herself can also stack with her passive to share it with other Memo Sprites, which is why she's so good with Castorice's team with Hyacinth, because Ika's gonna do a lot of damage, Netherwing's gonna do a lot of damage, and honestly, Evernight and her jellyfish are gonna do a ton. This character, when I say sub DPS, I don't mean sub DPS as in like, oh, she does a little bit of damage. She does a lot. She adds quite a bit of damage to the team. She massively complements this team, and it's insane. Now, let me just talk about the jellyfish real quick. So the jellyfish has has two different attacks. There's a single target attack and an AoE attack. The single target and AoE attack both scale on HP. Same with Evernight's kit. Everything she does damage-wise scales on HP, and the single target attack will take a little bit of her HP away. The AoE attack will instantly kill the Memo Sprite, but dish out a ton more damage. And it also has pretty decent toughness reduction too. Oh, also for this, the more Memoria that's consumed, the more damage is going to be dealt in that instance. Most players aren't even going to think about it, but for something like zero cycling, where you want to spread your damage out a particular way, it can matter. Higher is almost always better, unless you're about to waste a ton of damage going into something where you could have had more. When the Memo Sprite blows up, it's also going to give Evernight a huge speed buff, 10% by default, and then for every 1 Memoria point consumed by the attack, which happens when you use the AoE, it increases her speed by 1% more. So it can go up to 40, so that means if you have an insane amount of Memoria somehow stocked up, if you have 40 before you skill, which is probably not going to happen, but let's say you have 40 before you get to use your Memo Sprite skill, you get 50% total Evernight speed, which is nuts. But that's probably not going to happen. More realistically, you'll probably see like 20 stacks, 24, 28 stacks, so maybe around 34 to 38% speed bonus. But yeah, one cool thing about the Memo Sprite here is that there's a lot of playing around with crowd control and dispelling things. Essentially, going back to this 12 out of 16 here, right? The 12 out of 16 Memoria stacks, once you hit 16, that's when things actually start to happen. For instance, your Jellyfish will instantly take action and cleanse all crowd control debuffs on Evernight and allow the Jellyfish to instantly take action with the AoE skill. So the way you proc the AoE, by getting 16 stacks. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to get stacks. Now, it sounds really complicated, but I'm going to try to break it down and make it as easy as possible. Here are the raw stacks of Memoria you can get. You can get 2 from taking damage on Evernight, 2 from taking damage on her Jellyfish, and you can get both of these at the exact same time. 2 from casting Evernight's skill, or 12 bonus points if you use it within her ult. 1 from any Memo Sprite or Evernight attacking from one of her traces. 1 from the single target skill of the Jellyfish, which is written in the skill. 1 from the start of battle from one of the major traces, and 1 from Evernight's technique. You do have a trace that makes it so every single action the Jellyfish or Evernight takes, they will consume 5% HP. So with that in mind, here are the total stacks you'll get from every action. When you use the AoE on her Jellyfish at least 16 stacks of Memoria, you'll gain 3 from the Jellyfish taking the 5% from her passive, and 1 stack from a Memo Sprite attacking, and then afterwards, due to the Memo Sprite blowing up at the end, you'll gain an extra 2. With the single target attack, you'll be gaining 4. 1 from a Memo Sprite attack, 1 from the Jellyfish's specific Memo Sprite skill, and 2 from it taking damage. When you use Evernight's skill, she will take damage twice, 10% from her skill and 5% from her passive, and she'll also gain 2 because of the skill's description, for a total of 6. Then after the 6, you add 1 more because Evernight is attacking, which is a part of her major traces, and that means with her ultimate, you add 12 to that, which puts us at 19 stacks for using her skill within her ultimate. You gain 2 from Evernight's ultimate due to the HP loss, and 2 from Evernight's basic attack due to HP loss. So that is how her kit works. It is very convoluted, but I promise you guys, once you see it in action, it's really not that complicated. There are a couple things I didn't really mention, so I'll just quickly mention those. After your Jellyfish uses the AoE, you get 1 skill point back for allies, which is nice. And then whenever combat starts, Evernight's gonna get 70 energy and gain a Memoria, which I did mention that latter part. But whenever an ally Memo Sprite uses an ability, Evernight will get 5 energy as well, in addition to the Memoria thing. So hopefully that all makes sense. I know that was like pretty complicated. I've recorded this like 3 or 4 times trying to make it as simple as possible. And I feel like that was a decent explanation, but it just makes more sense if I show you. So lastly, I am running a premium setup here with E0S1 characters. So I'm going ahead and using Castorice's signature light cone, Evernight's light cone. We're using Dance 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 on Triby, and then Hyacint's light cone. Again, this is just because we're doing the harder game mode here, so I wanted to go ahead and showcase this at pretty high potential for you guys. Let's get into it. All right, so I'm gonna attack with Pollux here, and you're gonna see the 12 go up to 13 because we're attacking with Pollux, and that's the extra Memo Sprite stack we're getting. Now, there is a mechanic in this that's going to make it a little bit weird and difficult to count Memo Sprites. Basically, the buff in this, or the debuff in this, is that when you attack an enemy, you lose 2% HP, and so when the Memo Sprite or Evernight attacks an enemy, we're gonna get an extra couple stacks because we're gonna take an extra bit of damage after we attack. So That's something to keep in mind. If the numbers don't add up in your head, there's probably an extra 2 in there somewhere. But all right, here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and use Hyacinth's skill. This is gonna give us 4 stacks immediately. And then I'm gonna ult before the next turn comes up, which is going to summon Ika. Ika's going to attack, which is going to take even more of our HP away with Hyacinth Light Cone to give us 4 more stacks. And then we're gonna get a bonus stack from Ika. So in total, it should give us 9 stacks, bringing us to 22. Let's see. So at 17, we're at 21, and then Ika's going to attack, give us 22. And the jellyfish has moved up in turn order. We have the AoE. This should give us 3 stacks and then plus another 2 from attacking them. So let's see. So 3 stacks there. Now we're back at 2. I'm going to go ahead and use ult here, which will immediately summon the jellyfish as well. And here we go. We're at 13 stacks. It's going to automatically attack, give us 3 more stacks, give us an extra 2 plus the Memo Sprite 1 to bring us to 19. So this is how this is working. I'm gonna be honest, guys. You don't have to think about this at all. You just absolutely do not. It's not worth thinking about it unless you're doing some like crazy, way too dank stuff. I genuinely would not worry about it. Just focus on her damage, 524k. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, what a cool character. I'm just gonna pay attention to that instead of anything else that's going on because counting is hard, especially when there's 15 different variables. So we're gonna go ahead and just keep on whacking up with Castorice. You know how it is. We're not really struggling with skill points either. I don't know if you guys can see that. We're doing pretty good for skill points. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep spamming skill because I can. It's gonna give us a ton of points. And then we're gonna immediately be able to AoE once again. Gives us 31 stacks. So now we have a massive speed buff. I just want to look at this real quick. I just want to see. Oh yeah. 49% more speed. Love that. That's crazy. Just in case you guys want to see it, by the way, you can see like all of the other buffs that are going to be happening here. So crit rate for her personally, 15% more crit damage from one of her passives. And then if you go to a Memo Sprite, any Memo Sprite, actually, you can see they're getting a bunch of bonus crit damage, 50% plus 78%. So they're chilling right now. But yeah, let's go ahead and just keep wailing on them. So the way this game mode works is like you have a game progress amount. I know my camera's covering it, but I don't think that honestly matters that much right now because I'm just trying to showcase the character. But you'll see another 4 stacks here and then followed by even more. Oh wait, I actually don't have the jellyfish out, so we didn't get the double stacks. We only got 2 plus the 1 from Ika. So that's my bad. A little bit of a miscalculation. Go ahead and skill. We're past 16. We're gonna act immediately. Is that enough to ult? Yes, it is. We're gonna ult right now. Bringing them back, 317k. So she's just peppering them with like hundreds of thousands of damage, which is awesome, by the way. I love how much damage we're seeing come out of this character, especially considering that she's like, I'm calling her a sub DPS, but honestly, she does enough damage to even hold her own as a main damage dealer and do like somewhat comparable damage to Castorice. It's just that if you're pulling her to do main DPS and you had Castorice, there wouldn't really be a point. It would just be better to add her to the team so that way she's able to dish out a ridiculous amount, a Darchillian damage, if you will. Basic attack, we're gonna do this to get some action forward going. And now we don't have our Memo Sprite, so we're not gonna be gaining all of the stacks, but that's okay. A-okay with me. I could have saved Ika's ult, or I could have saved the Hyacinth ult. That probably would have gotten us more damage because it would have gotten us more stacks after I summoned the jellyfish. So that was a bit of a misplay by me. I'm gonna go ahead and Castorice here, or Castorice ults. I think that was also a misplay. I should have used that earlier, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and summon the jellyfish. He's going to immediately blow up and kill everything. Wow, that's crazy. Wait, that actually was crazy. 931k is nuts. Wow, okay. Yeah, and then Pollock's gonna do that thing. Don't worry about Pollux. Pollux is chilling. We skill again. We skill again. We skill again. Unlimited skill works. And we're gonna have another Pollux soon. And then when Darch comes up, we're also going to just be... We're gonna be chilling. I think we win this next little bit. You guys can't see the game progress, but you'll watch Pollux just delete these guys. I don't even think you need to watch. Like you guys already know how it's gonna go. We have the premium team, so we are chilling. I'm gonna skill. Wow, jellyfish axe immediately. Very cool. We can ult right away. Give us another jellyfish. And yeah, they're dead. So that's Darch. And there we go, 3 stars in the new game mode. So this is actually not, just so you guys can see it. Like I said, I'll have another video on this, but there's 3 knights and then there's the big bad boss. So this will probably be a different video, but this is meant to be harder than Memory of Chaos. So, you know, do with that information what you will. We have to do it in less than 2 cycles, and I think we barely took 1. So overall, feeling pretty good about this character. I can't lie. She's pretty dang strong, but she is niche, and I'm gonna explain all about that here in a second. But before that, I kind of want to talk about light cone options. So this is an HP scaling character. Obviously, we were using her signature light cone. This increases our max HP, which is already pretty big, but it's also going to make it so all ally memo sprites ignore 20% of defense. Yeah, so even though Darch has tons of buffs for ally memo sprites, a lot of the power is also in here. It also increases damage dealt by the wearer and their memo sprite, and then you also get energy when the memo sprite disappears, which the memo sprite bombs itself all the time. So obviously this light cone is very good for her. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and schmooze you guys and be like, oh my gosh, guys, you have so many other good options here, because realistically, this light cone is absurd for her. But if for some reason you're that guy who pulled like 200 Castorice light cones and you have one to spare, you can use the Castorice light cone, which has high base HP, also increases max HP, and will also give you defense ignore and blah, 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 blah. You guys know the drill. Hyacint's light cone is okay. Effect of the wearer using basic attack, skill, or ultimate, consuming ally HP. Like, yeah, you're gonna be able to consume HP of your memo sprite at the same time, which is also gonna give you 2 extra stacks, but it's just not gonna be as good as some of the other options. But luckily, there are some decent options now that are 4 stars, and then you also have Memory's Curtain Never Falls. This one's actually okay. But the HP is lower than some of the other light cones you might use. By the way, I just tested the the Hyacinth thing, so that's why it's equipped now. Like, you can use this for some speed bonus and just to make sure that the damage dealt for all of your ally characters goes up. So Memory's Curtain ends up being okay, but it's not gonna be like nearly as good as her signature. Her signature just kind of mogs literally everything. Luckily, there are 4 stars that are decent. Flower Remembers, I think this is the Battle Pass light cone. Basically, anything that adds damage via a memo sprite is going to be helpful. The Cyrene one is all right as well. It increases your max HP, which is super nice. So if you have it at S5, it could be decent, but the outgoing healing part just like doesn't really matter. And yeah, overall, like if you have the funds to do it, I feel like her light cone's just too good, but if you have extras of the other Remembrance character light cones, you can use those, or you can use Memory's Curtain Never Falls, or the Flower Remembers. Those are all decent options. Especially this one, like being a 4-star, it will buff the rest of your team even more, which is really nice. Now, what about her Relics though? Her Relics are actually very easy to build. First off, I love this set, the World Remaking Deliverer. It's like, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but it's basically like ancient Greek Trailblazer outfit, like the black, gold, and like that whole thing that's going on here. It just looks like so Trailblazer coded, which I just think is so sick. But yeah, no, this set is actually pretty good overall. When the wearer uses basic attack or skill, if they have a memo sprite on field, increases max HP of the wearer and their memo sprite, and increases all allies dealt damage by 15%, lasting until their next basic or skill. So essentially, this is a free 15% damage bonus, and you get 8% crit rate on the 2P. So overall, it's actually a pretty good set if you're going to be playing any Remembrance characters that you want to use as supports, or if you want to use them as a sub DPS. It's really good. However, another option you do have is Hero of Triumphant Song. This is just like, if you already have all of these pieces ready, you can use it. Basically, when the character's memo sprite is on the field, the wearer gets 6% speed bonus at the 4-piece, and then on top of that, when the memo sprite attacks, it increases the wearer's and their memo sprite's crit damage, which will then affect the amount of crit damage that you share with allies, and also just increase your damage. So this is also another option that you do have, but the memo sprite will be entering and exiting the field, so you will be losing that. That speed buff is going to be hard to keep track of. But yeah, this one's great. I ended up using this because we're doing so much damage with the other characters, but yeah, and I ended up going crit damage and speed on it, and then I also went with the Bone Collection set just because it's an HP based set that gives you memo sprite and wearer crit damage increase, and some max HP, ice damage, HP. You guys know how it is. And of course E0, but I will be going over all the Eidolons here in a second. So what you saw was a Castorice showcase, but I will say, if you are interested in running her as a main DPS, you can. I found it to be significantly less successful, but it is possible because there are so many supports that are catered specifically to helping Castorice, which is an HP scaling memo sprite damage dealer, that you can use the same characters for Evernight. For example, you can put Remembrance Trailblazer in, get that true damage with Mem, and get all that crit damage bonus. Use Hyacinth's Light Cone on Hyacinth, use Triby for the HP bonus as well. And like between all of those things, Evernight's personal damage is pretty high, and you can actually clear MOC 12 with it in a reasonable amount of cycles. But I'm gonna be honest, I just enjoy playing playing her with Castorice so much more. I feel like playing her with Castorice just feels so like complete. You're just dishing out so much constant, consistent damage, just like, dragon time, now it's bomb time, dragon time, bomb time, dragon time, bomb time, you know, just constant blows. And I just feel like it feels so much better to me. But those are just kind of my first impressions. There are some other options for supports that you can use too. Like you could play Johnshow for the vulnerability, Pela for the defense strat, you could play Ron May, things like that. You could play Silverwolf as well. But overall, what I find to be the most successful are the characters that are specifically tailored towards the Amphoreus units. All the Amphoreus characters work together, and all the ones outside of Amphoreus kind of work, but usually you'd prefer some of these guys. So overall, guys, this is kind of it for now. I don't think she's like off limits with other characters in the future though. I think this is one of the classic Hoyoverse moments where they're going to take a character that is let's say niche for now, or like more niche for now, and they're gonna add more units to the game that work with that character later. So keep that in mind when you're pulling. One thing to remember when you're team building with her though is that you do want to get as much crit damage bonus as you can by running 3 Remembrance if possible. That's why Remembrance Trailblazer does end up being like pretty strong here, just because you will get that bonus crit damage as well, which also shares with your other memo sprites. So again, if you're playing Hyacinth, Ika's already doing a decent amount of damage, but he can do more. By playing some teams that have less Remembrance characters, you're just going to get less value, right? And you can also play Aglaya as well, just so you have another Remembrance character in place of Castorice if you want. But Aglaya being a character that's not taking ally HP and giving you less stacks, and also being a non-HP scaling character, does see less value from Trivi. But the damage bonus you get from the set that Evernight's wearing and the crit damage bonus you're getting from her can be useful for Aglaya, just not as good as with Castorice. The synergy is not quite as strong, but she is a Remembrance character and she is a DPS. So, I mean, that's kind of it, guys. Right now, there are not enough characters in the game for her to be like an all-around universal sub DPS support, a DPS hybrid. But just in case you guys are planning on pulling for copies of her, let me go over her Eidolons real quick, just so that way you guys know what's up. So first off, her E1 will make it so that based on the amount of enemies on the field, you're gonna dish out more damage. So if there's one enemy on the field, all of your allies will be doing 150% of their original damage. So you take your damage that you would be doing and you times it by 1.5. That's pretty dang strong, especially in boss scenarios. And otherwise it's 1.2 if you have 4 or more enemies, a 1.25, 1.3, and the 1.5. So overall, good Eidolon. If you're using her as a subs DPS with Castorice, you'll see like even more gains on this, but it is gonna help basically every team she's in, unless you give her a team with like no memo sprites, which would be weird. E2 is where the bread and butter of this character is though. So when you look at Evernight and the amount of Memoria she gains, it doesn't seem like there's any real issues. Like you're just constantly gaining Memoria and there's no problems. But this is going to make it so that you can have essentially what I would consider to be 100% uptime. Evernight and the Memo Sprite will gain 40% crit damage, which is going to be helpful for buffing not only them, but the rest of your team. And every time you get Memoria, you're going to gain 2 more points, which is insane. Keep in mind that you actually get 1 stack of Memoria after the attack ends for your Memo Sprite, and you also get some when the attack triggers. So you actually, depending on how this works, I haven't gotten to test it, but it could potentially give you even 4 Memoria when you attack with your single target ability. But keep in mind, I could be wrong on that. Again, that's one of those things where if I find out, I'll pin it in the comments. I don't want to activate E2 because I still got more footage to record and I don't want things to be like super unfair. But on top of that, the 100% uptime thing also has to do with their ultimate getting extended by an extra 2 charge. So when you ult, you now get 4 charges instead of 2, which means that you get 4 red jellyfish explosions instead of the 2. Every time you skill when your ultimate is active, you get 16 charge and you get to do the AoE explodey thing. And you're going to be able to do that multiple times before your next ultimate. So it's possible you could get 100% uptime with this. It's not guaranteed, but you guys already saw, like we had pretty solid uptime without this. So the extra 2 charges, meaning that this will last through 2 more skills of ours potentially, or even at least 1 more skill of ours, is pretty nice. So overall, it'll just make it so you extend the length of your red state, which is going to be valuable for your damage output. E3 is going to be skill, basic attack level up, and Memo Sprite talent level up. This is going to affect your damage bonus that you get from your Memo Sprite talent, which is nice. And then E4 makes it so that ally Memo Sprite's weakness break efficiency increases, and her jellyfish also gets an extra 25% weakness break efficiency. Honestly, guys, I can't really quantify how powerful this is off the top of my head. It probably depends on the enemies you're fighting, and there's a lot of things that can affect this. So you guys know how E4 is. Usually they make E4 not as strong as E2 or E6, because by the time you're at E4, you kind of have sunk cost fallacy. You're like, okay, well, I might as well see it through to the end, right? And then go for E6. All right, E5 is an ultimate talent and Memo Sprite skill level up. And then E6 is gonna make it so all of your allies get all type res pen increased by 20%. So basically weakness of the enemy doesn't matter anymore. You're now doing damage as if they were weak. And if they are weak to your element, then wow. And after the jellyfish uses their AoE explosion, Evernight will get 30% of the amount of Memoria consumed. This can be very big just because it's going to make it very consistent how often you get the action forward and the instant attack with the jellyfish. It will actually lessen your uptime of your ultimate, which is really funny, but it'll increase your damage by a pretty significant margin. So with that said, if you guys are Darch fans, E1 and E2 are great. I would say E2 is just absolutely amazing for her, and especially if you want to play her as like a main DPS, you're gonna see like pretty big gains here. The E1's decent, but if you want to know between E1 and her light cone, off the top of my head, I'm probably gonna recommend her light cone first, just because the ally Memo Sprites ignoring 20% target defense is already really good. And on top of that, this increases her personal damage and gives her energy. It just makes like playing her so much easier. The quality of life is so much better. But okay, you're probably wondering, her eyes are so like threatening. You're probably wondering if she's worth pulling for you. And honestly, guys, if you already have the Castorice premium team, the previous Castorice premium team, you don't really need her. She's not going to be a character that's going to be an absolute game changer for you. But if you do feel like your Castorice is kind of like not holding up in current content, you could pull for her and improve your Castorice team. I think where Darch is going to be even more valuable is when we have more remembrance characters on the roster. Like we have Cyrene coming out soon. I don't know if she's going to be a support or she's going to be a damage dealer. I'm going to guess a support. But she would be another character that can add to the crit damage bonus that you get playing with Evernight. And she could even drastically buff Evernight to make her both a main damage dealer and a sub DPS support hybrid, which would basically make her a jack of all trades, healer and shielder of none, because she doesn't do that. But all in all, I do think she's quite niche. We've had two niche characters in a row with Saridra and now Evernight. And I don't want to discourage any of you guys from pulling her if she's a character that you really like. If you like March 7th and you really like the whole like evil March, you know, this character probably hates photos and probably enjoys AI generated images. So if that's your kind of like chaotic evil, then feel free to pull her. I don't think she's bad. I just don't think she power creeps everyone like every other character in this game except for Saridra. So, you know, do with that information what you will, but this is my first impression, so things could change over time. Either way, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know if you guys are going to be pulling for her. I will be pulling for her over on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Brax when she releases, so make sure to go follow there, and I'll catch you guys next time. Hey guys, I realized that I didn't put an Evernight main DPS showcase in the video, so I wanted to add one on at the end here. It's pretty casual. I didn't put a ton of time into doing speed tuning and thinking through every single move, but I don't have a ton of time to record, so hopefully this is a good look for you guys into how she does as a main DPS. And apologies I didn't make it a 0 cycle this time, but I'll have more Evernight content for you guys in the next few days, so enjoy.